What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to basketball. I'm burning the midnight oil a little bit right now, y'all, and you'll have to excuse my face. I think I got sunburned playing volleyball today because I'm a very pasty individual and I don't belong outside. But you don't care about that. You want to hear me talk about the NBA draft, or just somebody talk about the NBA draft, I suppose. We got to make sure we stay up to date with these mock drafts and everything and all the little things swirling around because the season's almost over and we pretty much get right into the draft not too long afterwards. The NBA season never really seems to stop. And I can tell you, I've been watching a ton of film at this point with the team that I'm working with. Again, I can't tell you guys who I'm working with. It's just not a good look for me to do that on YouTube, but I've been watching a lot of film, honestly a little bit more like free agency type film this week at the very least, but wanted to make sure I still got a video up for you guys, so make sure you guys like, subscribe, comment. I've responded to every single comment in my YouTube channel up to this point, and I intend to keep on doing so, and challenge yourself to write something educated in the comments. Don't just be like, this guy sucks. That does nothing for me, but let's get into it. 2024 NBA mock draft top 5 shakeup plus full 2-round predictions with it 2 weeks to go. Interesting. All right, what do we think? Is it still going to be Reece Shea at number 1? Yeah, still Reece Shea is number 1. I personally think it's going to be Sarr. That's my thing. I know, like, I don't know if this is even public knowledge. I'm getting this stuff confused a little bit, but I know the Hawks have been watching Reece Shea more. Like, I know that for a fact. They've been watching him like a damn hawk, and there's probably some justification in saying, like, his size, frame, and skills seem just like surefire things in the NBA. How high is his ceiling? Well, that's yet to be determined, but I feel like he's at least safe. Like, he's a guy that should be able to come in, should be able to start for most NBA teams, like, at least if you're in a lottery or something like that. Should be able to start right away. You figure that the athleticism, the quickness, the shooting, the defense, like, just the general spacing awareness that he has probably converts to the NBA really well. What does that mean for Atlanta if they take him? I don't really know. I feel like there's more roster-like moves that you can make if you go and take Sarr the center. And I personally hold Sarr and Reece Shea like neck and neck in my evaluations of them, and I give a slight edge to Sarr solely on the fact that it's harder to find like 7-foot dudes at the end of the day. So that's my opinion on it. You could go either way with it though, and I think you're making a solid selection with this one. Which means the Wizards get Alex Sarr, which I actually think the Wizards would be like thrilled to get. Unless you're Alex Sarr, then you're probably not thrilled to do it. And I'm sorry, Wizards fans. I know you guys want to say this new staff is going to lead us into the promised land. Maybe. I hope so. Like, I'd rather the team not be like just garbage and everything, but we hope that we see some progression. Adding Alex Sarr makes your team a lot better defensively. There's a decent enough ceiling on the kid where you're like, okay, he could become like a shooter from the perimeter. Like, he can be a great defender that goes out on the perimeter even sometimes so that you can switch 1 through 5, which is really cool. He's got a high motor. Seems to be a very high character individual from everybody I've talked to and everything. So it's like, yeah, you're just bringing a good guy into the club. If you're Alex Sarr, you're probably not too excited about it for the sole reason that it's like, okay, like they kind of didn't run much at all last year, and hopefully with this new staff coming in, they did. They don't really have anybody to set him up because he's not really a guy that can go create his own shot. So it's like, it's not maybe an ideal fit in that sense for him, but, you know, they could use a center, so there you go. Next up, yep, I gotta talk about, yeah, I knew it. Okay, so Reed Sheppard going at 3. I don't want to hear any more people saying, like, the Houston Rockets are, like, gonna keep this pick. I will tell you for an absolute fact, they are trying to trade this pick. I will not reveal my sources or anything on that. Like, so I know that's, like, a trust me, bro thing. They're trying to trade this pick. Like, I'm sure these guys mention it somewhere, too. Yeah, rival teams say number 3 is for sale. It's for sale, y'all. Does that mean it's gonna get traded? No. Because here's the thing with this draft class, like, what do you have to do to move up? It's kind of like up in the air right now because it's like it really shouldn't be a huge difference from like 3 to like 8 or 9. So teams are going to feel like they don't have to give up that much, and the Houston Rockets are like, we want to use it in like this type of trade. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if like the 3rd pick went to a team that doesn't even have like another lottery pick or something. It's a team that's giving up like a good player or something, and they're like, we'll throw in the 3rd pick along with like something else, like maybe Bridges gets moved in this one. I don't know exactly, but I feel like there's some logic in that. But anyway, we got to talk about Reed Sheppard and everything. We're not here to talk about like the possibilities of trades and everything. Like, yeah, if you're looking for fit, it's Reed Sheppard in this one. I'll continue to say I don't think the economics of picking Reed Sheppard here make a ton of sense. I know you guys will come at me with like, we need a point guard that can develop and do all this. The Rockets just don't need another project. Like, if you have to draft someone, fair enough. I don't know, like, it just seems like a poor economic choice, if anything else, for a guy that I just don't personally think has, like, as high of a ceiling. Yeah, they've got the same idea here. There isn't much room for the Houston Rockets for their roster to add another piece to the young core. It just doesn't make a ton of sense to me, necessarily. So, like, if this is what ends up happening, I know that's not Houston Rockets plan A, necessarily. It seems like a lot of Rockets fans are excited about that stuff. I think you guys will feel a lot better if you guys just go get an actual veteran that can help you start winning some games. Like, right now, you can go find a shooter in some other places. I'm actually going to do a Houston Rockets ideal offseason. I'm probably recording it the day that you guys are seeing this video. Whether or not that comes out this weekend is dependent on whether or not the Mavericks and Celtics get bounced, or if the Mavericks get bounced right away, but that's just that. Next up, San Antonio Spurs. How does Matas Buzelis keep moving up? I don't understand what's going on. So I've actually been a part of Buzelis' workout, and my opinion on him hasn't necessarily changed that much. Yeah, like, I'm seeing all this, there's positive chatter from different circles about Buzelis. I wonder if part of that is because of, like, Topic going down or whatever, and people are a little bit nervous about him at this point. And I know Topic probably wasn't going to go, like, top 4, but I feel like teams are starting to talk themselves into, like, the idea of Buzelis more than the, like, reality of him right now. Because the reality of him right now is he can't handle the ball very well. He didn't shoot well. Like, I do look at his form and I'm like, it should be better. So, like, I wouldn't necessarily I wouldn't write it as a concern, but it still wasn't good. I look at his frame and I don't see a guy that fills out necessarily well. But if you're Matas Buzelis, you probably want to play for the Spurs, right? Like, putting him next to a Wemby or something makes a ton of sense. So if you're a team like the Spurs and you say, look, we're not going to be that great this year anyway, so let's try and find something that can be a good fit next to Wemby, and we're just going with that, then fair enough. I guess I can't fault a team for wanting to do that, and if they believe, like, they can develop and get something out of him, then good for them. Next up, number 5. What? Wait, why? No, like, okay, I don't mind Cody Williams by any means. What is the logic with this one here? I gotta see. Number 5, spot lottery teams want to trade up our chance for Donovan Clingan. Okay, yeah, I know I kind of just, like, mumbled through that or whatever. Like, in that scenario, I feel like if Clingan goes here, I feel like it wouldn't be the worst idea to trade Duren. I like Duren. I know, like, when I did my Pistons ideal offseason, there were a lot of Pistons fans that are like, you know, he's such a bad defender and everything. I'm like, okay, first of all the shit that he went through at Memphis behind the scenes, like, I know that you guys don't necessarily know that, but it is pandemonium at Memphis all the time. Like, it is absolutely crazy on that team. So you got Memphis going on, you come onto a team that just loses all the time, like, and you just get blown out every single night. You got nobody really to help you play better basketball. It doesn't seem, I don't know what happened with the coaching staff and everything this year in Detroit. Like, no, it's his defense isn't like an up here problem, it's an effort thing at the end of the day. And, like, I can't necessarily blame him for just kind of checking out a little bit. He's 20 years old, but he obviously still got to be better. But anyway, Cody Williams, I'm getting on too many tangents today. Apologies about that. But Cody Williams just doesn't make a ton of sense here. Like, yes, there's a positional need kind of at, like, the 4 for this team, maybe even the 3, depending on if they bring Fontecchio back and what they want to do with him. But for the 5th pick, taking a guy that doesn't have, like, a very proven jump shot necessarily, there's not a high, like, sample size of it. He's still got a lot of growth to do and everything. Like, do we really want to add another project to Detroit? Like, I don't know. I'm on team Detroit should just trade the pick and try to be a little more win now. That's good for your culture. Like, at some point, you're doing the young players you have a disservice because they're never going to start to learn how to win, and all that talent's just going to fizzle away. I don't know. I think you got to go a little more win now. Next one, Charlotte Hornets, Stephon Castle. After all this, Stephon Castle's back in Charlotte. I know his camp is kind of trying to avoid him ending up in Charlotte. They want to end up in a more stable franchise. That's just the UConn way. That's how they like to do things. There's certain franchises they know that they want to avoid. And here, again, Charlotte Hornets fans, I hope it's better. I truly do hope it's better. I just have to see it first. You can't tell me it's going to be better until it's actually better, right? You just can't. That's not an argument. But Stephon Castle, really, really good basketball player. I'll say the same thing I always do with Stephon Castle. If he had even an okay jump shot, he's probably the number 1 pick in this draft because that's how talented he is. Extremely athletic, sees the game really well. Apparently a great kid, like, good passer, good defender. Like, it's all there for him, except the jumper is, like, it's concerning, right? It's really, really concerning. But I can see him, I think in our ideal offseason we took Castle, right? Like, him, LaMelo, and Brandon Miller, like, I kind of like that 3 right there, like assuming that LaMelo Ball stays healthy and everything. But I like that you have like 2 guys that can handle the rock a little bit. Brandon Miller can play a little bit more off ball where he's always been a little bit more successful. I just think it could be kind of cool. Stephon Castle could be a nice secondary ball handler on the Charlotte Hornets. So I like the fit. Like, I don't mind the team fit developmental wise. You just hope that they can do something good for him. Next up, the Portland Trailblazers, Donovan Clingan. That'd be a steal for them at 7. It seems like 7's kind of a lock to be Dalton Connect, but if Donovan Clingan falls there, I'm not going to fault them whatsoever. I think Donovan Clingan would be a really nice fit next to Scoot Henderson. I think that's a more traditional fit and player to have with him. I like that move a lot better than Ayton. I don't know what you do with Ayton at that point, so I guess you're bringing Clingan off the bench to try and develop for a little bit. I don't know. It'd be nice if you could move him out of the way so we could try to develop Scoot Henderson a little bit more and get him going with Clingan, because Clingan is probably 3rd on my list for guys that can come in and start in the NBA right away and be a difference maker. I just think his defense is going to be that good right away. I think he sees the game really well. I can see him eventually becoming more of a hub player. So I really like Donovan Clingan. I think if the Trailblazers have the ability to take him, I think they should, because I think he'd be a really nice pairing with Scoot Henderson. Next up, Devin Carter. Yeah, no, we've seen this one a couple times now. I've been talking about in these mock drafts for a little bit now that I think these older players are going to be moving up the draft the closer that we actually get to it, because I think teams are going to look at some of these young guys and be like, there's a lot of bust potential here. Maybe we just kind of got to take a for sure thing in this one and just get us a decent role player and know that it's not going to be a huge difference maker, and just try to make a solid NBA player out of him. And you never know, like some of these guys turn out to be something amazing. I look at like a Jalen Brunson and I was like, wow, this guy's a pretty okay basketball player and everything. I'm not sure I see the ceiling or anything, but he figured it out, man. Anybody can at the end of the day if you're in the right situation. But Devin Carter, I really like his defense. I like his ability to create. I think he's got a good vision on the court, decent enough shot. Like, the Spurs need some point guard help, and I don't think they're probably going to take a chance on like a Dillingham. Doesn't really seem like their type. And obviously Topic went down with the injury, and we still don't know when he's going to be back. So I don't mind the Devin Carter pick here at all. And I know, again, I don't remember if this is public knowledge or not, but Devin Carter, I know, did get like a lottery guarantee from somebody. I think it's a different team, though. I don't actually remember which one it is, but I remember talking about it with some people on a call. I've got way too much information on my brain at this point, so I don't know. Next up, the Memphis Grizzlies, Ron Holland. I don't hate the pick at all. Like, Ron Holland's got to go to a place where he's not going to be like a focal point too early on, because it's the same thing with Ron Holland as always. He's the right-handed RJ Barrett, but he doesn't have nearly enough going on like up here to like play basketball right now. Super athletic, super talented. He did go get 20 points a game in the G League, which actually isn't like that impressive at the end of the day. Like, it's impressive, right? But like, it's not like as crazy as like NBA 20 points a game. It's just not a direct comparison, like, because there's just so much more offense and such a lacking of defense in the G League. But anyway, the jump shot's not really good right now. His decision making is really, really bad. It's like tunnel vision, like Cam Whitmore type things, but like he's not as good at creating as like a Cam Whitmore is. So actually, who do they compare him to? They compare him to Cam Whitmore. That's amazing. I love it. I love it. I love it. But if he's on the Grizzlies and you got Ja Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr., maybe they trade for somebody else. They got Desmond Bane and stuff, right? It's like, okay, you can kind of hide him a little bit, and he's still a positional need, so he can play around all these other guys, figure out the game a little bit. I don't hate that pick whatsoever. I wouldn't be surprised if Memphis traded this pick either, because we know that they're really trying to get a little more competitive going into this next season, so I guess we'll see. Next up, Utah Jazz, Dalton Connect. I feel like the Jazz would probably be pretty happy if they got him. They've definitely got a positional need at the wing right now. They just need guys that can go out there and play that spot. I think Dalton Connect could come in and just be a nice difference maker for them right away. A little bit of floor spacing, never hurt. It's a nice guy to play off of as Keontae George tries to figure out if he's going to be a point guard or not in the NBA going forward. He honestly surprised me this year. Like, I thought that was kind of weird when they were trying to put him there at first. I would have not started him there, but I also wasn't coaching him or anything this year, and he really surprised me. I thought he was a pretty solid point guard for a rookie and everything, so that's cool. We get to see him develop. I think this is a good guy to kind of help put around him. Ideally, he'll be a nice defender one day because he's a pretty good athlete and he's big and strong. You teach him a little bit more about the game. I think there could be a really nice 3-and-D player that sticks around in the NBA for 10 plus years with Dalton Connect, so I really like him. Next up, the Chicago Bulls. Okay, I'm a Bulls fan, and all my Bulls fans out there know it's just the fucking worst right now. It's just the worst. It's not good. I don't want to harp on Rob Dillingham too much. But why would they do that? Like, if they took him, it's like, how many more point guards do you want on this roster, right? Like, how many more? What is the explanation for this? At number 11, the Chicago Bulls may see too good of a buy low opportunity on Dillingham, who could either provide instant offense off the bench or insurance/depth in case of any tempting Zach LaVine deals. We don't know if the Bulls will trade Zach LaVine, even if they are tempted, because they just want to keep this team together. But like, I don't understand. And let's talk about Rob Dillingham, though. Incredibly small. What do we got him listed at? 6'1". I think that's being a little generous. I've been at his workouts and everything, and for reference, I'm 6'5". I don't know, like 6'1" seems generous. I know the official measurements came out or whatever, but he still seems smaller than that. 164 is really light. That is really light, because like, if you got anybody outside of like a small point guard coming at you and they have any sort of momentum as you're trying to close out, you're just getting run right through. Like we're going through like a turnstop at the end of the day. Like even me at like the college level, like if I run into a guy like that, you're probably bouncing off me. And so that just worries me defensively. But I do like in Dillingham, I like when I look at him play offense, I'm like, I know exactly what I'd want to do with him. I don't think he's great at it yet, but I think the story is very clear that he's like this creating point guard. He can be very shifty. He can go get an open shot and get a look. It's just not really converting right now. So I do like that he's probably not that hard of a project offensively. I just don't know what I'm going to do with him on the defensive end. And I don't know how many, like what my capabilities even are, my ceiling is with that. But I am excited about that. And whoever takes him, like, I don't think it should be too hard of a project offensively. 12th pick, Oklahoma City Thunders, to John Salon. No, not to John Salon. Saloon? I think it's to John Saloon. Yeah, that just makes more sense. I'm trying to learn these things. Like, keep giving me those comments where you guys help me pronounce things, because I see multiple things and I get a little confused, and I want to trust you guys. This just seems like a good Thunder pick at the end of the day. Like, they just have time to develop these guys. Saloon is definitely one of the higher ceiling guys. You're like, this guy could become a really good NBA player one day. I'm not saying he's going to be like Giannis or anything like certain people are. I don't want to ever claim that out of people unless they're Victor Wembanyama. Like, when I was watching film with the team I was working for last year, and I was watching Victor Wembanyama, I was like, this is like the greatest prospect I've ever seen. I'm like, it's not even close. He's going to absolutely dominate. And that's not even like a smart thing of me to say. That's just obvious. But I like Saloon a lot. I think that he's shown a little bit of everything. I look at his body and I'm like, his body's really going to fill out well, and he's already got good mobility, and he's got good athleticism. He has good instincts. He's got solid form and everything. So I'm like, you could get a 4, maybe even a 3 out of him. That's pretty dynamic, and that would make a lot of sense on an OKC roster at some point. You may have to wait a little bit for it to develop, but they've been doing a good job developing so far, and maybe it just works out for him there. Next up, the Sacramento Kings, Kel Ware. Kel Ware has entered this status in this draft where every fan base is just like, I would take Kel Ware, and that's how I feel about him too. Like, any team you mention, I'm like, I could see that. That's a good fit, because while I don't think he's like not ready to start right now, he's just not. He's shown a little bit of like everything that makes me think that he can be a starting center in the NBA eventually. And at the very least, he's just a nice backup center to have. Like right now, when there's a thin market of like athletic bigs that you can go get, and he can step out and hopefully hit a little bit. I like the fit in Sacramento, man. I think he'd be a good backup center to add to the team. I like the possible development of him and everything. So I can support Kel Ware here. Last lottery pick, the Portland Trailblazers, Tristan da Silva. I've been hearing a lot of things about people saying Tristan da Silva is moving up. And here's kind of the thing, right? This is what I was saying, where I'm like, teams are going to start talking themselves into the older players more because they're like more confident in what they're going to get with him. So the Blazers getting him makes some sense, right? Like, you're getting a guy that can space the floor ideally. He's just kind of probably ready to play right now. I'm going to keep it honest. I don't love his game so much. I think his athleticism is enough of a concern to where I'm like, I don't know how much good you can do for me on the court right now. Like, because I don't see him being a cutter at all in the NBA. I struggle to see who he's going to defend in the NBA a little bit. I think, like I said, he's going to be a good catch and shoot guy. I don't worry about that. It's nice that he's got a little bit of height to do that on. I'd probably stick him at the power forward if I was going to stick him anywhere. So, like, offensively, this would make some sense with Portland. I don't know. I'm just not that big on Da Silva in general. There's just other people I like more. So that's just kind of my 2 cents on it. All right, here's the part of the video where people start to get a little bit annoyed. I usually just do the lottery, and then I'm just going to kind of skim through to see what other players I find to be like somewhat interesting. Ooh, there's where Topic goes. We talked about Topic a little bit already. Like, really curious to see where he's going to go. Mystery player at the end of the day. The little bit of film I've seen of him, he's wild to watch play basketball, and I don't mean that in a good or a bad way, actually. But interesting player. We'll see how long he's out for. But yeah, no, I'm just going to kind of go through the rest of this and talk about some interesting guys that I see. Oh, they got Zach Edey going to the Lakers for this one. I can't, like, this is probably where I'd start to think about a Zach Edey. You know, going into this season, I told people that I'm like, no, I'm not taking Zach Edey with the first round pick or whatever. But he came in and he was a lot more impressive than where I thought he was going to be. Improved his athleticism quite a bit. Obviously, he's still got a long ways to go, and I don't see him being a starting center in the NBA or anything. But I think he's going to have a nice, interesting role in the NBA for how big he is. He's mobile enough now to where he can do something on the defensive end and still be like a dunker spot guy offensively. I don't think teams are going to dump it down to him in the post too much. I don't know. I think his game and his moves are pretty simple to figure out. So I wouldn't think that that'd be something teams are really going to. I did see a comment of somebody comparing him to Shaq, and I thought that was crazy. I'm like, there's a big athletic difference between Shaq and Zach Edey, but I like it, man. I love the confidence in it and everything. But no, him to the Lakers would be interesting. Ooh, Carlton Carrington to 20. It feels like he's moving up a lot of people's boards, and I'm not... Like, okay, I know why. It's because he's shooting well in all the workouts that he goes to. I've actually watched him as well in those. And, like, yeah, no, he's got a fine shooting stroke at the end of the day. I worry about, like, his quickness a little bit. He is young, so, like, he could still be developing into his body a little bit more. I couldn't quite tell, at least by my perception of it. But, because I'm just going to be honest, I wasn't, like, totally all that interested into it. But I find his game to be pretty interesting. He's a pretty smart player. He doesn't really get to the rim much, and that's why I'm a little bit turned off by, like, this 6'4" guard that, like, he can create for himself kind of behind the arc, but he's not doing much else with it. That's just not really going to work at the NBA level. But if you take him there in Cleveland, it's a nice kind of change of pace to like the other two smaller guards you have. So I think it'd be kind of worth developing him behind those guys. So that could be kind of cool. New Orleans Pelicans taking Missy. I think it makes a lot of sense. Missy's pretty simple to understand. Run, jump, dunk guy. They need a center on that team and a cheap one. This is a good way to get a quality basketball player. I think he's going to be just fine in the NBA. Nice quality 7-footer, run, jump, dunk, block shots. I like Missy. Isaiah Collier to the Bucks. Not sure I see that one completely. I'm not surprised to see Collier continuing to fall down, man. You guys know I've been pretty down on him most of the season. I'm like, if you can't figure out the college game, I don't know, man. I don't know what to tell you. Like, it's not that complicated. The NBA is 100 times more complicated than it. And the fact that he couldn't figure that out, like, I think his build is really cool. It's just, like, nothing really works in, like, actual like games or anything. So I don't know. I'm not too high on him, and I don't know why the Bucks would necessarily be too high on him in this one here, but maybe they just want to take a chance on somebody. So interesting enough. All right, I got a lot of complaints from Knick fans in the last video because I skipped over it. I'll read whatever they are. Ryan Dunn. All right, really easy to understand him. Doesn't shoot the ball at all. Really good without the basketball. Elite defender. Great cutter. Basically OG Anunoby without a jump shot. Good pick. I like it there. Tyler Smith, still feel like he can be a really good basketball player. I know he hasn't like shot well necessarily in the workouts or anything like that. I just watch him and I'm like, I can do something with him. I know I can. I know if I get him in practice, I know I can do something with him. I would support both of these picks greatly by the Knicks. There you go, Knicks fans. I better see it in the comments. I'll continue to say Baylor Shireman is really impressive to me. He's a guy I have a lot of experience with. Him going to Utah, I think makes a ton of sense. Should be able to just contribute for a team right away. Does a little bit of everything well. So I like Baylor Shireman. Oh boy, let's talk about Terrence Shannon Jr. So the verdict came in today that he's innocent, and I'm not going to comment any more than that. And the kid's innocent. There you go. Let him play basketball. I'll be doing a big board video before the draft at some point. I don't know exactly when. I got to kind of finish ideal off season first and everything, and probably draft week I'll put out some videos like that or something. But Terrence Shannon Jr. I think is one of the best players in this class. I don't think it's even like close with some people. I think he does literally like everything pretty well. I think he sees the floor really well. I think he's a really good defender, a really good athlete, a good shooter. He's got multiple moves to him, which is rare for a college guy. Like he's got a couple starting moves and a couple counters to like each thing, and I think that's interesting. I think you could plug him into an NBA team right now and he can be a guy that can go create some offense for you coming off the bench. So I like Terrence Shannon Jr. a lot. I'll be curious to see if a team takes him back in the first round now that all the other allegations are gone. Ooh, Nikola, is it Jerzic? I don't know how to say it. Basically, watch the film on him. It was pretty impressive, pretty smart basketball player, pretty talented for his size and everything. I'd say he struggled a little bit more when he got up against the better competition, but I don't know. I didn't mind his game whatsoever. I'd be curious to see him play with like a roster full of NBA guys that knows what they're doing a little bit more, because he had just at least seemed like he understood the game more than everybody else. So I'd be curious to see. I don't think they're positive if he's staying in the draft either, but interesting guy nonetheless. Oh, Justin Edwards does anybody think Justin Edwards might go undrafted or something? Like, because I'm not gonna lie, like in the combine, I know he like hit a couple shots, but honestly, I was a little underwhelmed by it, and maybe teams are still going to be attached to like the high school stuff that we saw out of him and everything. But I don't know. I'm kind of a little worried about him staying in the draft. I don't know. That's just me. Are they going to do it? Are they going to do it? Don't really care about Juan Nunes, Enrique Freeman, Antonio Reeves. That's the 55th pick we're looking for. Tristan Newton and Bronny James at 55. I'm going to give my little spiel again. Watch the film on him. I think he's incredibly talented. I really do. Like, I'm not just saying that for any reason. This is my honest opinion on him. I wrote it in my scouting report and everything. I'm like, I think Bronny James could be a solid NBA point guard. What do I mean by that? Like, I'm not saying he's going to be a starter or anything like that. I see him as a more athletic, like Trey Tyus Jones. I think he sees the game incredibly well. I think his form is solid. There's like one or two things I'd like to tweak on things, but he just seems to get the game really well. He's really big and strong. It's a really cool kind of build of a player. I wonder where he got his genes from, right? I think it takes a little bit. I think a team's got to develop him a little bit, but I don't see why he couldn't be a good NBA player. I don't like these like things like this is how he played in college and everything. Like, one, he was coming off some pretty crazy medical stuff and everything, and obviously we hope that he's going to be okay. But the college game, for people that are maybe a little bit more wise to how basketball should be, can be incredibly difficult to play in, especially at like USC, where they're just kind of doing whatever. They're like, I can't say like why I don't trust what they're doing there, but I don't have a ton of faith there. Okay, that's the best way for me to put it. Anybody else all that interesting to me? Anybody else? Boogie Ellis? No. Okay, well, that's another mock draft down, y'all. I think this is going to be an interesting one. They were right when they said some shakeups here. A lot of stuff moved around, and I think like we could all be surprised on draft night. No, as always, that I don't root for any of these guys to fail by any means. Just because I write like a negative scouting report on someone doesn't mean I don't want them to succeed. I want all these guys to succeed. Like, they're trying to achieve their dreams. They're working hard. Like, if I was coaching any of them, like I wouldn't care if I liked them or not in the draft process. They're on the team. They made it. I want to see them all be great. So just know that. But hey, you guys let me know, like, who do you think is a sleeper in this class? Because we've all got our ideas and everything. Like, I think Clingan should just be in the top 3, and I wouldn't be surprised if someone trades up to get him. But you guys let me know in the comments below. I appreciate you guys as always. I've got to go back to work and watch more film. Thanks so much. Bye.